You and I are once again gathered here to discuss something I know some of you probably don't want to discuss, but I am going to talk about it anyways, and there is a reason for it. The evil that is operating in this world is doing everything it can to beat us, and they are very clever about how they go about their agendas. And make no mistake, they have the money, power, and resources to carry out their agendas at our expense, mainly at the expense of our health and future. They don't want us to have either. Novel foods. House cricket becomes third insect authorized as food ingredient for the EU market. Yummy. The Commission has authorized the marketing of house crickets, Acheta domesticus, as novel food in the EU. And I want you guys to remember that name, Acheta domesticus, because it is one of the names you may come across on labels of some products that may end up in your grocery cart. It is the third insect which has been successfully approved for consumption and follows previous authorizations given last July for the dried yellow mealworm, and in November for the migratory locust. The house cricket will be available in its entirety, either frozen or dried, and powder. So it seems that they are pretty serious about this and they really want this operation to go forward. Listen to this. This authorization was endorsed by the member states on December 8th, 2021, following a stringent assessment by the European Food Safety Agency, which concluded that the consumption of this insect is safe under the uses submitted by the applicant company. Products containing this novel food will be labeled appropriately to flag any potential allergic reactions. In recent years, the Food and Agriculture Organization has found that insects are nutritious and healthy food source with high fat, protein, vitamin, fiber, and mineral content. Okay, so this is what they are telling people. Okay, then let's take a closer look at this and let's see if these things are truly healthy for human consumption. Or is the FAO just straight up lying? So let's start with mealworms. The common mealworm, the yellow mealworm, also known as T. molitor or Tenebrio molitor. Coleoptera tenebrionidae. This is what's being distributed worldwide. Now, there was a study done to show that consuming mealworm protein versus milk protein from a cow pretty much had the same effects of protein synthesis and muscle growth for pre-workout, post-workout, and rest. So they do know that our bodies can assimilate this protein. Now here's the reality. Mealworms, pests in general, they will pretty much eat anything you give them, fresh or rotten. And the quality of the nutrition in the mealworm depends on what it's been eating and its stage of development. Also, what it has been exposed to, which means you have to harvest this worm at exactly the right time. I want to show you all something, but first I have to tell you about a few things. When you hear the term instar, that is just another word for a stage of development. The word molt is when an animal sheds its outer layer of skin as it grows, and each molt marks the next stage or next instar of development. There is also something called chitin that I want you to be aware of. Chitin properties. Hydrogen bonding between monomers in chitin make it very strong. Pure chitin is translucent and flexible. However, in many animals, chitin is combined with other molecules to form a composite material. For example, in mollusks and crustaceans, it combines with calcium carbonate to form hard and often colorful shells. In insects, chitin is often stacked into crystals that produce iridescent colors used for biomimicry, communication, and to attract mates. Chitin sources and functions. Chitin is primarily a structural material in organisms. It is the main component of fungal cell walls. It forms the exoskeletons of insects and crustaceans. It forms the raduli, teeth, of mollusks and the beaks of cephalopods. Chitin also occurs in vertebrates. Fish scales and some amphibian scales contain chitin. Okay, so now that you know what chitin is, listen to this. Chitin, a potential allergy-promoting pathogen-associated molecular pattern, is a linear polymer composed of N-acetylglucosamine residues, which are linked by glycosidic bonds. Mammalians are potential hosts for chitin-containing protozoa, fungi, arthropods, and nematodes. However, mammalians themselves do not synthesize chitin, and thus it is considered a potential target for recognition by mammalian immune system. Chitin is sensed primarily in the lungs or gut, where it activates a variety of innate and adaptive immune cells. Chitin induces cytokine production, leukocyte recruitment, and alternative macrophage activation. Now, to sum all that up, chitin makes you sick. Your body literally breaks it down enough to where your body's immune system can then recognize it and take care of it, causing inflammation and allergic reactions. Now, phosphorus, let me tell you something about phosphorus. Of course, phosphorus is an essential nutrient. We all need it in our diets. Now, mealworms, when you feed mealworms to something like a reptile, if you feed the reptile just straight mealworms, the lizard is likely to get bone disease. You have to dust the mealworms with calcium because the calcium and phosphorus ratio is so off. If the lizard gets too much phosphorus and not enough calcium, the phosphorus will actually cause problems. It will cause the bones to leach calcium, and it will cause problems with calcium absorption and phosphorus absorption. Bones get weaker, all types of problems start to occur. Now keep all these things in mind because this is what comes with consuming mealworms. See, they didn't tell you that you needed to supplement calcium when consuming this stuff, did they? Why? So that you can get sick and have to go later to the doctor. For what? Drugs. Do you see how they work together? Now that you have that little bit of extra information on mealworms, let me show you this here. And this is the results of the analysis they took when they wanted to measure the nutritional content of mealworms at certain stages in its development. The main components were crude protein, fat, and chitin in T milliliter. The percentage of fat and dry weight increased from 30.4 to 36.6% before the adult phase and reached its maximum at the pupa stage. The percentage of chitin in dry weight increased from 7.2 to 11.8% with development. The phosphorus content decreased slightly with the growth of the larva, but calcium content increased before the pupal phase. The crude protein contents of the single larva increased with the increase of larva weight and reached their maximum value of 114 milligrams at the 13th instar. The crude protein content in the pupal stage and adult stage decreased significantly. From larval stages to pupation and adult, the percentage of crude protein decreased from 59.2% to 39.6%. Furthermore, the content of the larva stage was higher than that of the pupal and adult stages, with the crude protein content of 3 to 4 instar larvae being the highest. So this gives you a good idea of the degree of potency when the mealworm is at different stages in development. And this also depends on if the mealworms are dehydrated or not. Now, when scientists research parasites, guess what they often used in their research? Mealworms. They are perfect for parasite research because they easily get infected with parasites. All these insects have them. Of course, when it comes to eating them, the same rules apply as they do with fish or anything else really that can also be loaded with parasites that can infect you if it is not prepared properly. The thing is, when you introduce something new into your diet like bugs, now you potentially open yourself up for infections you would not have gotten otherwise. Parasites are tricky, and they have been known to have the ability to psychologically affect their host. For example, the hairworm, which infects crickets, causes the cricket to seek out water and jump into it, effectively committing cricket suicide because the hairworm wants to move on to an aquatic host, like a fish. And so governments around the world are saying that this stuff is safe for human consumption. And I knew that one of the reasons they wanted to certify it as safe is so that they could sneak it in our food supply. That is why knowing the scientific name of these creatures is going to be important when reading food labels. This is why I always like buying raw ingredients. You have fruits, vegetables, meat, and spices, and all this other stuff with multiple ingredients on the label. You really have to read carefully. Bugs are good for protein. Yes, and you have to consume a ton of bugs in the process. And when you suck the water out of the bugs to increase the potency of protein, you increase the potency of all the bad stuff as well. Chitin, anyone? Yeah, that's what gives bugs that cookie crunch. I mean, what type of energy do these crickets and mealworms carry anyway? What are they trying to turn us into? I know reptiles like to eat bugs. Maybe the reptilians are assimilating our flesh to taste like bugs. I don't know. Well, that's all for now, folks. I am sure we will continue to see more and more examples of this new trend of eating insects. Be sure to visit woodwardentertainment.com and the Woodward Entertainment store. You can follow me on Instagram at JAEWoodward. Everyone have a great day, and as always, stay awake, stay aware, stay safe, stay away from those bugs, and I'll talk to you all soon. Stay away from those bugs. Stay away from those bugs, and I'll talk to you all soon.